Welcome to the Bible Live with Stacy and Soapy Dollar, a show that goes deeper into the Bible, verse by verse, page by page, and book by book. Each Sunday, Stacy and Soapy go over the past week's reading from the website, thebiblelive.com, and discuss the meaning and answer questions from you. If you have a question, email the show at soapy@thebiblelive.com. Now join us as the Bible Live. Here's Stacy and Soapy Dollar.
Or I'm thinking you can just give us a phone call. 210-340-9585.
That'd be great. That'd be fun. We haven't done an open line in a while, actually.
Oh, yeah. We need to do that again. I'd like to hear folks. Have you been watching the Olympics?
Yes. It's so fun.
The Winter Olympics, at least?
Yeah. A lot of the figure skating, the half pipe. I've missed the women's hockey. I haven't seen the men's yet, so. But I hear it's kind of a repeat.
I saw the women
of the Miracle
hockey.
on Ice.
Yes.
I saw the women's victory, and I was going to watch the men's, but I got the time mixed up.
Spoilers.
No spoiler alert.
No spoilers.
But
the ice and snow one.
It's already been gone on. But anyway, I have become a big fan of curling, and that really surprises me because I used to be so bored with curling because I didn't know how you get your points or anything, but the more I understood how you score points and how you do it, it really is quite interesting. Although I think maybe I'm showing a little bit of prejudice here. I think men's curling would be more important. I think it would be more better, as we say, because they throw it harder. That that thing they're sending down the ice,
the stone.
The stone. You know how much that thing weighs?
How much?
42 from 38 to 44 pounds. 42 pounds. Mm-hmm. It's a pretty heavy thing, and that made it interesting. But the guy, I like to see the guys throw it, and it hits everything. Everything goes everywhere. The women have a lot more finesse. They're very soft.
Might be like pool, maybe a little bit breaking the pool.
Like the men, we back up and go, wow, you know.
Uh-huh.
But anyway, I can't believe I fell in love with
I can't
curling.
Just for the record.
I never did like
curling
it before.
has been a favorite of mine for years.
Really?
Yeah.
I never liked, because I never understood what they were doing. But anyway, we going into another kind of competition now in the Bible. We're making a major change. We've been in the Torah, Genesis, Exodus, Leviticus, Numbers, and Deuteronomy, and the first 5 books of Moses, the books of the law, and now we're changing gears. Moses is going on the back page now of history. He's going to be in our rearview mirror, and now it's Joshua coming on. But if you don't mind, Stacy, I'm going to try to bring folks, all of us, along just a little bit of a review of where we have been. Yeah. I like to do that from time to time so we don't lose sight of what God is doing in these chapters,
Right.
because we're talking about history. We're talking God working with the human race, establishing a plan of redemption
Right.
based on what?
Genesis
No,
15.
two key words. All the way from
sure.
Genesis 1 and substitutionary
Atonement.
atonement. Remember that, folks. God is all the time, he's emphasizing substitutionary atonement. And in other words, his plan for redeeming fallen mankind is going to be a substitute. It's not going to be an angel. It's not going to be an animal. It's not going to be an extraterrestrial. It's going to be a man, a special man that God is going to bring along, who will, he said to Eve in Genesis 3:15 that I'm going to put conflict between you and the woman. He's talking to Satan. He's talking to the serpent. I'm going to put enmity, conflict. You will bruise his heel, but he will crush your head. And he's going to be the substitute, the Lamb of God who takes away the sin of the world, as John called him. So let's back up just a moment. Remember, about 4000 BC, we have the story then in Genesis 1 through 2, and it's a creation. You have two versions of creation. One is by the days, day 1, day 2, and animals and plants and so on and so on. Creation, over 7 days of creation. Then from Genesis 2 through 4, we see Adam and Eve in Eden, the Garden of Eden. We see their fellowship with God. Then we see their wrong choice, falling into sin, and the whole race of humanity, which is in them, the whole race, the human race, comes under the consequence of our sin. And so we have the sin nature. They are expelled from the garden, and they begin, they're told to multiply, spread out, multiply all the earth, but they don't do it. And so the race the whole race then, after a number of generations and genealogies, the whole race falls into sin, and they're judged by God with a universal flood, all except for Noah and his family. In chapter 6 through 9, we see Moses comes along. That's after Cain and Abel. And again, God is looking for people, human beings, who want to know him, who love him, want to serve him. But they keep falling. After Cain kills Abel, they're given a third son named Seth, who became picked up to be a godly branch of the family. And so we follow those genealogies along under Seth. And then you come to Noah. and the flood. And Noah and his wife, his 3 sons and their wives are saved by the ark. Mm-hmm. The ark is a picture, a type of the Messiah, mm-hmm. the one, because God closes the door and saves them and the animals there. We know the story of the ark. And then, I'm sorry. Mm-hmm. Then the race again, the human race began to expand again after they come out of the ark. But they still disobey God. He again tells them, spread out, mm-hmm. multiply in all the earth. But again, they don't do it. And then you have the Tower of Babel in chapter 11. Finally, God forces them to spread out and multiply. Now, we got to remind people, why was God so intent? He told Adam and Eve, he told Noah, Owen, do. And we sometimes we read that and we don't. Why would God telling them to spread out and multiply?
Yeah, it is really fascinating, especially when you look at these dates. You know, it's about 4000 BC, and of course, remember once you're over when you're in BC, it's like being on the negative. you're counting down, and so 4,000, 3,000, 2,000, 1,000 till 0, of course, right? Yeah. And so 4,000, and the date sort of about Abraham and Sarah. Well, let's just say Tower of Babel. Tower of Babel, 4,000. It's about 2250 is where the Babel is dated, and so that's a pretty big chunk of time. I mean, that's about 1,500, 1,700 years.
Was growing.
Right. Time was going, the race was going. But that's about 17. And so then you think from 2250 to 0. So it was a very important thing. I mean, the command to be fruitful, to fill the earth, to spread out was really necessary. So sometimes we kind of think of Tower of Babel as just a little bit of a bookmark, but it really changed the whole landscape of what God was doing. And as far as why, which was the question, why is so important? Why would he command to be fruitful and multiply, fill the earth, to spread out? It reminds me of, I remember in business classes, they would talk about group think. And when your company has gotten into group think, it's a dangerous thing because you start making more foolish decisions. You don't have checks and balances. Yeah. And it was always something to look out for. Like if you have a board of directors, or if you have, and you're isolated and insulated, and you're not, boots on the ground, you don't get other input, you don't have somebody to be able to give new ideas, or that you just kind of tend to all lockstep. I like how you always
There's
say
no
checks and balances. Right.
Yeah.
And you can very quickly end up making just horrible decisions because kind of the power of consensus, and everybody, well, okay, we're going to all do this.
It's
and
a mob rule mentality.
Yes. And so Tower of Babel, and when he forced his people to spread out, to develop different cultures, and to have different ideas and different ways of communicating and working and building, then you have those checks and balances. You have kind of that healthy competition. You have
different languages
as
well.
Right, which was key. I mean, I think that's kind of in it.
That's what
That's
Yeah.
what started it all. I mean, just all he did was confuse the languages, and that was enough to completely change the whole landscape of creation. Was differently. So you think of, I mean, languages are fascinating.
Yes.
It's so much more than just speaking a different language. I mean, it really turns into a different culture, a different music, different art, that difference
the
is
people
good.
in the mountain have a different word
Right.
for they dress one way, they talk one way,
Yeah.
they have different animals, different.
Yeah.
It's really interesting. One time when we were on staff with Campus Crusade way back then too, at the University of New Mexico, and we had a speaker come to speak to our student group. We had about 150 young people in our
Kind of discipleship.
yeah, kind of in our discipleship network, and he was a professor of
language.
it's a wing of speech, but I can't think of the word right now. He was
Accents,
He
maybe?
knew the
Accents?
history of the development of languages.
Oh, yeah,
And
interesting.
he affirmed for us and said to us, linguistics, I
Okay,
guess.
okay.
They have discovered they can trace what language came from, let's say, Latin, and
Right.
gave rise to French and Spanish.
All the
and
Romance.
then they have the languages that developed from the Germanic
Right.
languages and so on and so on, and then Chinese and all that. And they can do that, but they can only go back so far, and then all of a sudden there is an explosion of languages that
All of a sudden, they're at 20. They're at 2250 Tower of Babel.
They can't explain.
That's interesting.
Because there was an explosion,
Right.
and they can't trace easily one to another
Right.
and to another.
Yeah.
And that's fascinating to me.
Yes.
But God used that as a
Yeah.
way to spread out the race,
Yes.
give
Checks and balances, give
checks
accountability.
and balances, and serve as a mitigating factor for evil, for sin.
Right. Well,
in
it
the
does.
human
It
race.
also shows how exciting. I mean, from 4,000 to Babel, the most. I mean,
Yeah.
But in terms of scripture, there's not. I mean, the flood is the most exciting thing, or the most
Yeah.
at least edifying, creative. Interesting is God. There's not much else. I mean, except that it is just evil. I mean, that they all
every now and then in the ongoing story, the narrative, it interrupts it with a series of genealogies, and that's where we got this one begat that one,
Yes.
begat then. And all of those are generations.
Wait, you mean in that 4,000 in that 1,700 years?
Yeah.
Well, right. The most exciting.
Just the passing
yes,
of
just
those
the passage
years,
of time.
you have to realize at the same time.
Right, but that's what is so fascinating, because then you've got 2250, and then just within once people have cultures and different languages, within that 1,000 years. So much happens.
Yes.
There's just you've got Egypt, you've got Canaanites, you've got all of a
Yes.
sudden all of these different, and not to say that they're all. They're not. Clearly, the world still needs redemption, but to even give it a shot, you've got at least different people groups that are busy, at least creating and. Where they're not completely consumed with just groupthink evil.
And even then, people did have another witness for
Right.
God,
Yes.
nature
Right.
all around.
Yeah.
Whether you're Chinese or
Right.
Indian or
And they could appreciate
Yes.
each other's different. Oh, hey, look at what they did.
and they could respond to that.
Right. Yes.
And look in a positive
Right.
way.
Yes.
We look to God, the creator of this world.
Yeah.
And so it's really fascinating
it is.
to back off and see what God was doing,
Right.
shaping and preparing the human race, the processes that he went through to bring about his ultimate redemptive plan
Right.
in the Messiah, Jesus the Messiah, and all in preparation. So people still came to God by faith in his plan, in his redemptive plan, as best they understood it at that time by faith in the future,
Right.
looking forward, substitutionary atonement all the way. And then we see the Messiah come. So that I thought it would be good to go through Genesis, and then we get into Genesis. We end up with let me see, Moses. No, you go Abraham, Isaac, Jacob, and then you end up with Joseph, and they get into Egypt 400 years.
Yeah.
And then we go to Exodus, and Moses comes along and takes them out of Egypt, and 40 years in the wilderness, and
at this
Numbers.
point, the tribes are, so of course, Jacob's sons,
Yes.
and that's the tribes are kind of established. And again, even within Israel, there's these checks and balances, even with the
exactly.
tribes. So you have that dynamic. And so when they leave, you really start to see, okay, so Moses now leading this group of people, and not all of them are Hebrew.
Right,
some of
not
them are
even all.
Egyptians
Yeah,
that
exactly.
have decided to follow the God of the Hebrews, and are, which is so even within these languages and these cultures and these spreading, it's interesting. It's kind of like it's, the Tower of Babel separates.
It is.
And then you see, and of course, Pentecost. Ultimately, what God is doing, though, is going to then be bringing back and piecing, but instead of unifying under a Tower of Babel that's human built and that's evil, he will bring and call out a people that will be one people that speak one, language.
That's very interesting.
But it'll be
to see that relationship.
Right.
Yeah.
It's kind of like, it's almost like that death works backwards thing with CS, So we'll start kind of with this confusion because it's necessary. And then he's working towards that oneness. But this time it'll be a redeemed oneness. It'll be a oneness
That's very good.
Yes.
The symbol of Pentecost, the coming of God's Spirit, and all heard the gospel preached in their own language. The miracle of the Pentecost was really counter...
Babel.
Babel, yeah.
Yes.
That's a good thought. Yeah.
It is. It's neat. And so it's neat to see that. I mean, God's not Babel is not the end. It's just the beginning to give the human race a chance at then, being truly unified correctly under him and under the gospel and under Jesus' banner. But so I think it's neat that we remember. So as Moses, Exodus is Egypt, and these tribes and even the Egyptians that join him, it is not exclusive about this particular nation group, although that is what God is using. That's the tool through which he's going to use
and that's
civics.
Something
and he's going to
you have always reminded me of through the years is the centrality, the importance of family and family relationships in the overall movement of God as He increases man's understanding of Him and His plan.
Right.
Oftentimes we see Him using human relationships, especially family relationships, to further it along.
Well, it is
the
it is the smallest unit of politics.
Yeah.
I mean, a polity is just a group of people working together and so the family unit really is kind of that smallest unit of rules and regulations and laws and forgiveness. And
our God is sure smart.
I know, it's interesting, right?
Created a wonderful plan.
Yes, and so then we have Moses. We have the 40 years of wandering. They had a chance to enter Canaan early on. They did not, and that was Joshua who led that group. And then we come to Joshua again, kind of take two, and there we are. So it took one segment to get to the book of Joshua. That's our music.
Good for me.
Yeah. So now we're about 1400 BC, just to kind of show the timeline there, to speak the timeline. But that is our music, and so that is the end of our first segment. This is the Bible Live. We'll come back and dive into the book of Joshua after that. And we're back with the Bible Live. Oh, I like this song. And we're in the book of Joshua, who I like Joshua. He's my Bible crush. I don't know why. Every year I say that, and every year I probably shouldn't say it, but he's just cool. He's cool. I like Joshua. So here we are. It's about 1400 BC. Joshua. Now, what was Moses? What was Joshua's relationship to Moses? Just besides,
remember, he was. No, it was Aaron.
Yes, right.
Yeah.
Just a cool guy. He's a cool dude.
Yeah. No, he went up on the mountain with Moses.
Yes. Okay.
And I remember, and he was just a young protege,
yes,
an assistant,
right,
and helper, and
it's kind of neat. Yeah,
became a leader and learned leadership.
Maybe that's why. I mean, just as far as there's he's not like the tribe of Judah. He's not Aaron's. He's not like Aaron, Moses' brother. He's not. He just is. He's the thing I always think when I think of Joshua: strong and courageous. He's always encouraging them to be strong and courageous, and to trust in the Lord. And I
be
think
strong and of good courage.
Yes.
Yeah, he is. When they go into the Promised Land, he, of course, is their leader. Mm-hmm. Is it his nephew? Is the first judge of Israel.
Is that Othniel?
Othniel is his nephew or son or grandson or he's kin to.
That's neat. Yeah. To Joshua. Well, he is who is chosen. I mean, when Moses dies, Joshua is the new Moses. He is their leader. So it's divided, the book of Joshua, in kind of four sections, four segments. You've got chapters 1 through 5. That's Joshua really taking the helm. He's the new Moses. They're at the edge of the Jordan, looking out over Canaan. Here we are 40 years later, kind of a take two. I do think it's funny. the first time, they send 12 spies and
Yeah.
they all the cold feet. There's that group think maybe where they're
Yeah,
just sort of
maybe.
all got scared together and it culminated, it spiraled. This time they send like 3.
Yeah.
3. So let's just do a smaller number this time.
Yeah.
This is that. Well, so we've got that part, and then we've got chapters 6 through 12. That's going to include, of course, the famous Battle of Jericho, God delivering His people. It's got the
two battles. In
Yes.
all of these things, we need to see what God is doing. He's teaching them as they move along. You'll see often a contrast: Jericho and Ai.
Right.
Jericho.
I like to call it AI these days.
Victory, failure.
Yeah.
Victory, failure.
Right.
And they learn,
Right.
and we can learn as well.
Yes, and that
from their
reminds
experiences.
Yes, and there's a part in those first couple chapters that I think really emphasizes what God's word is to the people. It is not, we're not putting God in a box. Although I think that the people of Israel keep on wanting to do that. They keep on wanting to say, well, we have the tabernacle, so God's with, that's our security blanket. Well, we have this. That means God is with us. And early on, Joshua encounters the captain of the Lord's army in the first thing. And Joshua asks him, whose side are you on? And the captain says, no, I'm not on it.
Doesn't work that way.
It doesn't work that right. It's whose side are you on, Joshua?
And that's I never thought of it till this time I read it, and I thought, well, that is so, we are so like the people of Israel in a way. We want to reduce God to be on our side.
Right.
It's all about the Jews. It's all about Israel, and it isn't about a people group in that sense. A national America is not at the center of God's map.
Right.
At
least not at first. In other words, we don't love because we love. We can love because He loved us first.
Exactly.
And I think that's kind of that same idea. Because you do see, if God is for us, who can be against us? You kind of hear those, and you do sort of God be with you, or God is this.
It's who you mean by us.
Yes, and it never starts with us getting God on. It only starts because first and foremost we are obedient and have submitted to Him, and then so maybe that's kind of the difference that when we talk about is God on our side or not, just remembering that first and foremost it's not a matter of us putting God on or doing anything that makes Him be on our side, apart from that we have submitted to Him, and we have.
Yes. That's why I've always insisted and tried to help our listeners and other believers understand that the truest and most accurate way to understand the word Israel is the people of God.
Yeah.
It's not a particular language group or a particular genetic family or group. Not even Abraham. Mm-hmm. Abraham is the father of Israel. It's a genealogy of faith.
Right.
Faith is a common factor of God's people, not blood or genetics.
Right.
We are, and now it's more clear than ever that God's people, we now number in certain ways, the people who at least in some way identify with Jesus Christ is close to 2 billion people now. Every race, every tribe, every language, every red and yellow, black and white and brown, every color. And that we are Israel. What means the people of God, those whom God has called out of the human race for Himself, and we have declared our love, our allegiance, our faith in the true and living God. That is the truest meaning of the word Israel.
And we see that quite a bit in the book of Joshua, just even early on with Rahab, and her being spared. And then the Gibeonites. I think that one's so funny. That's so interesting. It's this group that they pretend to be. From
a far off land. We've come, and they had
disheveled and moldy bread.
Yes.
But they get Israel. They get them to have a treaty with them, and they won't kill them. They were like, and it was sort of under tricky. But you have to kind of respect that they knew where the victory would lie. They knew they wanted to be on God's side. Yeah. And it reminds me of the woman that was in the New Testament that was bleeding, that just wanted to touch Jesus's, hem, and, who touched me? Or the woman that says, he calls her a dog, essentially, and she says, well, even the dogs get breadcrumbs, just sort of that humility, and I know who I am, but I want to be with you.
Or the blind man, Bartimaeus.
Over and over
again. What did Jesus tell them? Your faith had made you whole.
That's
Your
right.
faith.
Yeah.
That's what many times in the New Testament, Jesus is there healing and so on. And what he's doing, he questions, he asks people, and he's looking for that faith.
Right.
He's looking for the evidence of the person as faith. Like the man said, I see men as trees walking.
Yeah,
well, that is a basic teaching that man as a spiritual core, like a tree by the river. And the spiritual is unseen underneath, and the physical is some. And now I see man. It's like a tree walk. Our roots. What matters in the spiritual, most important, and Jesus sees that as an evidence of faith. And believe He's coming along.
That's the thing that comes from is so. But remember that poem, "The Touch of the Master's Hand"?
Yes.
I love that last little part. And many a man whose life is out of tune and battered and scarred with sin is auctioned cheap to the thoughtless crowd, much like that old violin, a mess of pottage, a glass of wine. He's going and almost gone, but the master comes, and that foolish crowd never can quite understand the worth of a soul and the change that's wrought by the touch of the master's hand.
That's a beautiful
it is so
point.
Sweet, and it's such the reminder. Again, so this is Joshua, and God is nation building, and He is in the process of, sustaining a people group through which the Messiah would come. And it is beautiful. I mean, it is fascinating. The Bible, I mean, there's a lot of cultural things, and but it's always about that personal relationship.
Yeah.
When it comes down to it, it is God calling you. He's calling out a person who will be the people of God. Yes.
And so it's so masterful what we see God doing. If we have what they call 30,000 feet view
Right.
of what God is doing, it makes sense
Yes,
because
it's
it's
fun.
moving in ways that more and more and more people will come into the fold,
Right.
will understand, because, but at the same time, even as he develops these main parts, individual people are
Right.
making their decision
Yes.
about knowing God
Well, yeah.
based on the information they have at that time.
Yes, and that is a big part of. I mean, that's what
Yes.
Joshua finishes his great last speech. Is
Yes.
you choose you
Each
this
one
day.
of you.
Each one of you choose this day whom you will serve, and that's kind of, and that's in the last section. So we have the first section is chapters 1-5. Second, we kind of get into chapters 6-12, just as far as just the division, how Joshua is structured. Chapters 13-22, you have the 12 tribes, the division of the land, and you get kind of the practical, which is fun. I like this about the book of Joshua, and I think that is one of it kind of goes back and forth between the nation building and the civics, and kind of how Joshua is leading a people group, and how you can have a group of people not kill each other. I mean, how you can kind of live with one another. At the same time, remembering the personal relation, the Gibeonites, Rahab, and then the very last, the two speeches that Joshua gives are the last section. It's chapters 23-24. And that's where you get Joshua's famous, choose you this day whom you will serve. And of course, he's encouraging and look at what he has done. Strong and courageous, he's worthy. Follow, obey, do Moses' command, the commands that we've been given. And he's encouraging them to choose God, to choose the Lord. But ultimately, you do have to make that choice. And enlargement, this is right before going into battle. And so it's not a choice that is one. It's you have to choose. You don't have a choice about, about choosing. You have to choose. And two, it's a consequential choice. I mean, it has real consequences. Who you have chosen as your leader. I mean, who you will serve. So anyway, it's the book of Joshua is great. I think it gives you both that 30,000, like you said, view, at the same time it brings it down
to the individual.
Yes.
The young man named Achan
Oh, right.
disobeyed the Lord.
That one's hard.
And it's a tough. He and his family suffer extreme difficulty because of his disobedience, his lack of faith in God. Now, it's all so interesting that God, even as he puts these major parts of the puzzle together and bring together his plan to bring the Messiah. The Messiah is a key, because the Messiah is going to bring the kingdom. It's going to be, the Old Testament is what Daniel called the time, the time of the Jews. God ministering and reaching out primarily through this Israel, this group of people that he developed. And it is some way family related, it's some way nationalistic related, but there were always people not Jewish in that sense, and not
Ahab,
Hebrew.
Jezebel.
David's 30 great warriors, many of them were not.
The Hittite.
They were Hittites or this or that and the other. and even as it's always not. It's always broad and big, and you see it's God calling out a people for Himself, from every tribe and every race and every language. It was always God, for God so loved the world. It was always about the world, but at the same time, it's carried out in such a way that, like you say, we can read specific stories.
Yeah.
The particular adventure, the particular journey that Rahab made, and it's or that Ruth made. They're not Jewish. They're not.
Right. There's a real. Oh boy, sorry. The mic. There's a real. Well, it's kind of like the eye of the needle kind of thing, or it's like truth itself. Or I'm trying to think of. It is an interesting. Because it has to do a little bit with sort of broadness and narrowness. You know, when you think of, because on one hand, right, the people of God in heaven is going to be every tongue, every tribe, every nation. So you think really broad and big. And yet at the same time, they will have all entered through the very only one narrow way, and that is Jesus.
Yeah.
And so it's very narrow entry. It is but that gives way to, it reminds me of Narnia. It gives way to
It's amazing.
vast. In fact, it's the only way truly to give way to to a whole vast kingdom. If you try to seek all the things, you're going to lose all of them. But if you seek God, you gain all of those things.
You know what it has occurred to me just in the last few years. Do you know that little booklet that Bill Bright wrote called
one?
The Four Spiritual Laws?
Do I know that?
Yeah.
I've heard of it, yes.
The Four Spiritual Laws. I thought it was just a sweet little, nice, handy, really good, nice little outline to share the gospel with someone. But I realize now those really are four fundamental laws that were part in every phase of God's revelation of Himself to Adam and Eve, to Noah, to Abraham, to every time God expanded the understanding of Himself to people through the covenants and so on. And then you have Joshua, and now we're going to have the judges coming up, and then it goes into the time of the kings and the prophets. With every time, those four principles remain fundamental.
Yes, right.
God's love is practically on every page. There's some understanding of some expression of God concern and love for the human race. And then the problem of sin and selfishness. And then the solution, God's mercy, God's love, it has an expression in God's atonement, His plan of salvation, of redemption, through substitutionary atonement. and then for law 4, we each have to make our own decision.
Right.
We may know a little, we may not know anything but the very basics. God loves clinging, calling out for God's love. And God, I know I'm a sinner. I do bad things. please forgive me. Forgive me. And this, it's all when God catches that spirit and hears that longing, then he hurries to someone bring a little bit more information to say, Jesus came and bled and died to forgive your sin. You can have a relationship to God. And people go, wow, that's amazing. And that's like that Mongolian man that told me long ago, all my life I searched for God. I wanted to know God. I knew I needed God. Tonight I finally met him, and I learned that his name is Jesus.
It's such a great.
It's so fascinating and so amazing what God had done and what he is doing. Even this very day, people are hearing, people who didn't know God, Afghanis, Iranians, Iraqis, Muslims, every language group, every tribe in the Amazon rainforest. You have primitive tribes still coming to know God because they're hearing about the Messiah, who bled and died to forgive our sin. It is so wonderful and so beautiful. It is mind-blowing, actually, what God had done.
Right, and I have always loved, and again, the book of Joshua, how it takes us that 30-foot down to the personal, kind of and at the same time, it's that very practical, essential, not being, being here in where God, in the time and the place that he has planted us, rules and having to live this life while at the same time recognizing that a spiritual life is happening simultaneous. There's spiritual, and everything is, them going into Canaan and crossing the Jordan and all of these metaphors and things that God is working spiritually in each of us too.
Yes.
Well,
it's
when we come
beautiful.
back, it is. It's a great book, Joshua. This is the Bible Live, and that's where we are. We're in the book of Joshua. And coming back, I want to read one of my favorite quotes kind of on this subject. Of course, it's C.S. Lewis from The Great Divorce. It's from the preface of The Great Divorce. But stay with us, and we'll be back after this last break.
We are the broken, you are the healer. Jesus, oh, you are my portion. You are my hiding place. Oh, I believe you are the way.
I like this song.
The truth and the life. I believe you are the way.
Yeah, this kind of speaks to what we're talking. I mean, in some ways, in fact, this plays into the quote. Jesus is so utterly unique. He is holy. We'll talk about holiness in a little bit. He stands alone, and yet throughout Scripture, it's interesting because he's the way, he's the truth, he's the life, he's the bread, he's the door, he's the vine, we're the branch. There are all of these, and so by him being so utterly unique, he kind of becomes almost everything.
Everyone, yes.
But I always loved the preface of The Great Divorce. So C.S. Lewis wrote this, and I remember growing up, you would always say, you need to read it, it's great. And I was like, what? Divorce? I just didn't, I wasn't, it just, Narnia sound was so much more interesting to me.
I get that. Oh, we had such a great divorce.
I know, right? You don't really. But of course, once you once you read the preface, you're hooked completely. And then the whole book is just, it's real short. It's real fun and interesting. It's great. And it's the divorce of good and evil. Of course. And so it's a real fascinating. So basically, it's kind of C.S. Lewis just trying to somehow and conceptualize what heaven will be like. I think one of the hardest things for us to imagine is a place where good and evil, where evil doesn't exist. I mean, when it's not a part of it, that to me is one of the hard, I can, of course, my imagination, gold and diamonds and ice cream. And I mean, I can think of a lot of really fun, heavenly kind of experience or things, but those things without a sin nature, like, without gluttony, without envy or without greed, just that's what's hard. And yet, of course, what we absolutely long for. But anyway, so this book is
Wait till you're 60 or 70 or 80 years old. You will spend a lot of time thinking about it. And it gets more beautiful with every insight.
Oh. Well, yes. And that will be the most exciting aspect of, and because, of course, that is the way in which we will be able to see him face to face.
And
without
we will
blemish.
Be like him, for we shall see him as he is.
Yes. And we will be, and that holiness and, one of the, in the preface, one of the paragraphs, it's a little bit, it's C.S. Lewis. And so you kind of, I'm going to have to read it a couple times. I won't read it a couple times. I'm just going to read it once. But this is that famous paragraph where he talks about the sums. You cannot make a wrong right by simply continuing on. I'm just going to read it. I do not think that all who choose wrong roads perish, but their rescue consists in being put back on the right path. A wrong sum can be put right, but only by going back until you find the error and working it afresh from that point, never by simply going on. Evil can be undone, but it cannot develop into good. Time does not heal it. The spell must be unwound bit by bit with backward mutters of disserving power, or else not. It is still either or. If we insist on keeping hell or even earth, we shall not see heaven. If we accept heaven, we shall not be able to retain even the smallest and most intimate souvenirs of hell. I believe, to be sure, that any man who reaches heaven will find that what he abandoned, even in plucking out his right eye, was precisely nothing, that the kernel of what he was really seeking, even in his most depraved wishes, will be there, beyond expectation, waiting for him in the high countries. In that sense, it will be true for those who have completed the journey, and for no others, to say that good is everything and heaven everywhere. But we at this end of the road must not try to anticipate that retrospective vision. If we do, we are likely to embrace the false and disastrous converse and fancy that everything is good and everywhere is heaven. So it's a very, it's ultimately, yes, heaven is, that good is everything and heaven everywhere. Well, while we're on this time and space, and so it's kind of like we're living and we're living towards that. That is what all of our desire is. That's what all of what our rules, our nation bill, our choices. That's the end. That will happen, but here it's through by the blood of Jesus. It's only you only get there though through and I mean of course death is that ultimate. We will join him and we will take up our cross. We will follow him, and that means we will die, or this body will die. But when we're in him, it gives way and it opens up to this beautiful, good is everything and heaven is everywhere. But we cannot do that on this side. I don't know. I just love
it's so very nice, and it's so alive with truth. And the more you think about it, it is become, oh man, that's right.
Yeah. The next line is,
yes.
But what you ask of earth, I think, will not be found by anyone to be in the end a very distinct place. I think earth, if chosen instead of heaven, will turn out to have been all along only a region in hell. And earth, if put second, though, to heaven, to have been from the beginning a part of heaven itself. It's kind of an interesting, and that's, I mean, boy, that's, I'm sure that resonates with me.
It's all there, all the parts. I understand now, as a believer, I'm just now being able, as a man, to think about my God and what it is like to be with Him in a place where, we think of it as kind of it's almost like fairy tale,
Yeah.
And shining pearl gates and sitting on a cloud and playing a harp and so on. But no, it's a place, and try to meditate to some degree. It's helped me to meditate on Jesus.
Mm-hmm.
He was a man of God.
Mm-hmm.
He loved God as a human being with all his heart, with all his mind, with all his strength. And yet, he, for one, he enjoyed laughter. He went to weddings. He
Right.
and loved his
Right.
friends.
Yeah.
And even in spite of their being slow and not being very quick on uptake, they were slow to learn. But he was patient because he knew the Spirit of God was going to guide them into all truth. And so there's a way to live in this world,
Right.
with that view, with that reality in mind. It really, to tell you the truth, it's a fulfillment of God's purpose in the tree of the knowledge of good and evil.
Okay.
The more we know Him,
Right. Oh, you're
the
right.
more we know both.
Right.
We
Yes.
can recognize
Yes.
evil.
Right.
We can see that selfish motive in ourselves and so on. But with maturity, we begin to see, we can see it more clearly.
Right.
And we see God's purpose that we will indeed, in some little measure, become like God because we have been created in His image.
Yeah.
And we see good and evil.
Yeah.
We can recognize the difference.
Oh, and all throughout. I mean, you see how.
No, I'm not there yet, by the way.
Right. Well, I mean, but that.
One day,
Yes, and that's what
in glory,
Yeah. Well, and then
we will be.
And then even in prayer, Thy kingdom come here on earth as it is
Thy
in
will
heaven.
be done.
The believer, death really starts working backwards. We are becoming more and more. So even those, even Paul, those things that are painful in this life, these things but he can count it all joy. I mean, in all circumstances. When you have gone through the needle, the eye of the needle, that when you have gone with Jesus, and you've trusted in him and him alone. He is the way, the truth, the life, and you put your entire life in his hands, it creates, it opens up all of these things that, what was meant for evil, God is going to use it for good. What was painful, I count it all for all joy. It is, it's in the book of Joshua. You see it play out, I guess.
Yes.
He's got it is obey the law, because through that we are coming into God's country when we do that. And of course you get the benefit of actually, in this case, there being a river that they crossed.
Yeah.
You come into a land, and that land becomes their own land and their home, and the people group, and it's an establishment. And of course, it's not perfect on this word, but that's the image that God is providing for his people, that serve me, love me, come to me. And this is just a taste. This is just this is just the beginning of the ultimate of heaven someday. I love, of course, you've talked about it before, but Moses not getting to enter into the promised land, but of course the irony, because he dies and he goes to the real promised land. And then in the New Testament, you actually do, in the Transfiguration, Moses appears, right, with Elijah next to Jesus in the promised land. And so he does get to eventually.
What does Moses say? So this was what you were talking about. Oh, wow.
Joshua is like, you go ahead. I've been there.
Yeah,
No.
I guess so.
But it is. But just that imagery of the promised land, a people. He's doing it in time and space, working through Joshua, working through
practical.
So practical.
Yes.
All at the same time, we can be looking at this and realizing he's not just doing a physical thing here. He is, of course, doing a spiritual thing here. He is, like always, it's always both.
Yeah, always both.
Always, yeah.
And we're going to move from Joshua. We're going to move Joshua. The whole book of Joshua takes place in about 30 years. It's only about 25 to 35 years of warfare, and about 10 to 15 years of out-and-out war,
Right.
with the 5 kings of the south and then the kings of the north, warfare. And then it's about the different tribes taking their portion that they've been given of the promised land, and they're supposed to now go and finish up the job of driving out sin and wickedness out of their different tribal areas, but they don't do it. And so that's going to be the value of the book of Judges. We're going to see in the book of Judges how we as human beings, we are prone to wander, prone to selfishness and fears and all kinds, and we can things can go south very easily. Even now, this is a relatively good time. There are failures. There are in the book of Joshua, but they had a godly leader, and the people had a mind. They had seen God at work, and there's good things and bad. But it goes into Judges, all of a sudden it's just one bad thing after another.
Yeah.
They keep falling away. They keep failing.
Everyone did what was right in their own eyes.
Yes, yes. And so, but I like what you say. Keep your eye on what God is doing on the big picture in terms of redemption, sanctification, and so on. He's still doing those things in people's lives, but you can also see the momentum gather and his plan coming together as we get closer and closer to the coming of the Messiah, the Savior, and now look where we are, all around the world.
Yeah.
Billions of people call Jesus the Savior, the Lord, and every race, every tribe, every language coming to God. The kingdom of God, truly, as Jesus said, the kingdom has come.
Yes. That's an interesting thing. Would that have been pretty much unique for a people group of that time, or really of any time? You don't tend to be functioning as a nation constantly looking forward and hoping at, like, the Messiah idea. That is pretty much completely unique to the Hebrews, right, of that time, and then now to Christians. I mean, Christians, it's the second coming. We look forward, whereas other cultures or anyone that is, they're not necessarily looking forward.
But it's kind like you said, it's forward thinking, but it's present application.
Right.
But
that forward thinking,
the principles are still true now to experience.
Right. But the only way to have those principles is by thinking forward.
About what
So it's
God
kind of
is doing and it's going to ultimately complete.
Yes, and having that promise. I mean, that was completely unique. I think of the Egyptians. What are they at the ruling level?
Yeah.
What are they? They're looking at they're kind of looking at their children, I guess, right, or dying or building or somehow creating. There's no promised future that God is doing something through, and this will happen, right? Is that
I think it's like Troy. Remember I said the gods that people followed, the false gods.
Right, yes.
They're filled with hope. We gotta please Apollos. We gotta give him money or give him food or do this. And you always you look.
They're like humans. I mean, they're made in our image. I mean, they're just sort of these more powerful versions of us.
And it's a dead end street.
Yes.
It ends. You've gone nowhere.
Right.
It's like in the movie about pets. He said, I run and I run and I run, and then I get out and I've gone nowhere.
Yes. And so that was a unique thing about the Israelites. It was one God. It was who had a specific promise that he had made with them, that even through all of it, through the tribes,
real world of good and evil, and all the complexity of it, but God is doing something, and we can see it's going to end well.
Right.
He is. All of our concerns are met,
and it's about
our fears.
Right.
We see the truth. God is solving this problem, and ultimately
we're along
for
the ride.
Yeah.
And it's about him and what he's doing, not about us and what we
Us
we
solving
initiating,
the problem.
right?
Yeah.
We're reacting. We're just our only, which is unique not only to that time. Would it have been unique? I mean, the Canaanites didn't function like that. The Amalekites didn't function like that. Nobody functioned like that. It's unique now
Yeah, I
as
guess
well
so.
for Christians. I mean, it's a completely unique way of functioning, right? I mean, most of the other, any other nation or people or person. I mean, I guess you're kind of always looking.
Yeah.
Well, what do you hope? What do you, what are you living? What are you working toward? What do you? I don't know. I don't know if that's
yes,
making
you
sense.
do
But it was
know.
an interesting.
You did a wonderful job
It's just
of thinking.
it's just an interesting thought because as you're putting yourself in Joshua's place, as they're in the land of Canaan, they're now 35 years of war. They've seen God work in Jericho, and then you see. I always want to say AI. How do you say it? IE. It's AI, but IE, I guess. And you can, you see God being very alive and active and really involved in your people, and so you do that, and then you come to the tribes and dividing out the land, and now just sort of establishing yourself. And I can see why Joshua would say, okay, after all, now who are you going to serve? How are you going to now move in this life and make decisions? And it's interesting just the difference of having witnessed and seen that. And then what the
yes,
I guess the comparing that to other nations that didn't have
other nations or other religions or other philosophies.
Right. Yes, all
the
of it.
thing is, we're all in the same kettle. We all see the same problems. We ask the same questions, but only one place do we find a real answer.
Right.
It's
back to that.
Substitutionary atonement.
Right.
He came and took our penalty of our wickedness, of our sin, and it is removed and it's conquered.
Right.
And he is, by his Spirit, driving the selfishness and the sin out of our life, and we are perfect now in Christ, and we are being made perfect, being prepared for heaven.
Yes, and it's the only ultimate promise made, and the only promise kept. I mean, you compare to anything else, any other. Nothing else.
No other religion, no
even
other
makes
philosophy offers a solution.
Right.
We all see the problem, but there's no one that has a solution in real life except Jesus the Messiah.
Yes, choose ye this day who you will serve. He's worthy. Well, this was really fun. I love the book of Joshua. Next up, Judges, which is tougher, but very important and very good then. So go to thebiblelive.com, listen this week to the book of Judges, and we'll be back next week.
Sunday night at 5:30 p.m. for the Bible Live with Stacy and Soapy Dollar. To listen to each week's readings and past readings, go to thebiblelive.com. You can also make a gift to help support the program at the website, thebiblelive.com. If you have any questions, email the Bible Live at soapy@thebiblelive.com. Listen again next Sunday at 5:30 p.m. for the Bible Live on AM 630 The Word.